Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm really appreciative of your support and thanks for coming back again. So in this week's episode, I am going to be out in the field and I'm going to be out photographing one of my most favorite subjects, which is short-eared owls. I think everybody knows this, but if you don't already, there are two genres of photography that I love photographing. One is landscapes and the other is wildlife, specifically wild birds. And so this episode, I'm going to be out in the field photographing short-eared owls. Now, the short-eared owls are a winter migrant to New England, along with snowy owls and long-eared owls. But they come down here from their Arctic breeding grounds during the winter. And so we are really lucky to have them here. And so there's a place down in southern Massachusetts. It's well known for its short-eared owls. So I went and spent the afternoon down there, and I captured some footage while I was there. Now, a couple of things here. One, I had some technical issues early out in the field, and so I lost some footage early. That's why I'm opening this episode from the studio. And then secondly, towards the end, again, I had some more technical issues, and then my camera ended up running out of batteries. And so I'm going to end this in the studio as well after you see some of the footage from the field. Now, as far as the footage in the field is concerned, what I tried to do while I was out shooting was talk a little bit about gear, a little bit about technique, a little bit about best practices, how I go about photographing these short-eared owls while they're out flying. And so that's what the focus on is, while I'm out in the field. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out in the field, we're going to watch that portion, and then I'll come back towards the end, kind of wrap things up, and share a couple of the images from the day. We'll go from there. So again, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy my day photographing these short-eared owls. We are here in the southeastern part of Massachusetts, getting ready to go photograph some short-eared owls. The short-eared owls migrate down here in the winter. They love vast open spaces where they can hunt for foals and small mammals, and this is exactly the type of location I'm at right now. I'll show you more of it as we get out there, but right now I have about, maybe a 1.5 mile walk out to the location I want to get to, and hopefully be able to photograph a bunch of owls. Now, there have been reports of 6 to 8 owls here at any given time, and so, that's a good thing, obviously. If you want to come photograph them, they do appear to be here. So we're going to hope that that's the case today. Of course, you never know with wild animals. They may not be here, but you don't know until you get there. So that's what we're doing here today. Now, one of the things about these short-eared owls is that they are considered crepuscular. And what that means is that they're generally active in the morning and in the evening, so dawn and dusk. And so we're about 2 hours, I think, from sunset at this point. And my guess is I'll probably get out there and have to wait maybe 45 minutes or so for them to become more active. And so we'll see. We'll see what that means. I do think we'll end up with some good activity as we get closer to sunset. But it takes a little bit to get out there, a little bit to get set up, and then you just kind of sit and wait. And they are pretty awesome to watch. So that's our goal. So right now, they are probably hunkered down somewhere, low to the ground, in some, bushes or down low to the ground. And so it's kind of what they do during the day. They just hunker in, and then they become active towards sunset again. And that's why I'm out here now, trying to get out to the location in time for them to become active. So again, on my way out to my location, I've come across a kestrel, American kestrel, which is a falcon. He's probably hunting insects at this point, but they also feed on just small birds, small animals, things like that. So I'm going to photograph him for a little bit. It's a good looking kestrel. And
we'll get some shots and video of him first. Well, as much as I'd love to photograph him a bit more, he's kind of flown off. He's definitely hunting, as he was hovering for a little while, but he's going off in the other direction from where I need to go. So we're going to get back out. We're back on track for looking for those shorties. Now, the other things that I'll keep an eye out for out here are northern harriers. I've seen them here a few times. And there's reportedly a great horned owl out here as well, but I've never seen that. So who knows? But there's also meadowlarks, lots of little songbirds. So we'll keep an eye on a variety of species as we walk out and settle in on our location. But again, I'm here for those shorties. So let's hope we get some of those. So I think I'm going to set up here. There may have already been a few in flight over there already. And so I'm going to set here, it's my gear here, get ready, and just kind of sit and wait. And I think, let's see, what time is it now? Yeah, really probably within the next half hour, we should start seeing the shorties. Again, there may have been a couple in flight over there already, but way far away. And so I'm in this vast space right here. And my experience has said, or my experience kind of coming here in the past has reminded me to just kind of find a place and sit, and then, you know, hopefully they kind of come to you. If I need to, I'll move a little bit further down that way. But for right now, I think I'm just going to sit right here and wait. So while we wait, why don't we talk about settings? Now, obviously, with regards to the equipment, I'm shooting full frame, and I have my 600 millimeter f4 lens on it. That obviously is a wonderful lens to shoot with. It's not so much about the 600 millimeters as it is the f4. Being able to shoot at f4 really gives me a chance to, two things. One, isolate my subject, so these birds flying, but also as the light begins to dissipate, I can shoot a little bit longer than other folks because that f4, it's a super fast lens. It allows a lot of light in. So even as it gets dark, I'll be able to still be able to be out here and shooting and you know, capturing great images of these owls, hopefully. So that's a little bit about the equipment, but let's talk about settings. And there's really three big settings to talk about. Number one is ISO, number two is aperture, and number three is shutter speed. Shutter speed is really simple. You just need to be fast enough to be able to capture these birds and freeze these birds in flight. I got plenty of light today, so shutter speed's not going to be a problem. 1/1000th of a second or faster is plenty of speed to freeze these birds. Aperture is going to be a little bit different. Now I'm going to shoot pretty much wide open as much as I can. These birds aren't going to come close enough to me that I'm going to run into any issues around the focal plane being, you know, not wide enough to get them in focus. But if they do happen to come near me, maybe they land near me in a bush, or maybe there are two birds interacting in such a way that I want to make sure I get both birds in focus, and that because they may not be on the same focal plane, then I will stop down to 6.371, something like that, just to ensure that everything that, you know, the birds are in complete focus. So that's really the key piece there. And then the third piece, of course, is the ISO. And I almost always shoot in auto ISO. On a day like today, I got plenty of light. I'm not really too worried about it. It's going to shoot at a really low ISO because I get so much light today. But even if it does, and as it gets darker, it's going to increase the ISO. Might, you know, shoot around 4,000 or even higher than that. that's okay. What I need is I want shots that are crystal clear, that are super sharp. I can take care of noise with the denoise software that's in post. Ideally, I don't have to do that, but the reality is as things get darker, your ISO is going to increase if you want to keep your shutter speed fast enough. So I want to keep my shutter speed fast enough so I get really clear and crisp images of these owls as they fly. And since they'll be flying as the lightness is dissipating, I need to be ready to shoot at a higher ISO. So I don't even worry about it. I just let the camera do the auto ISO. I take care of shutter speed and I take care of aperture and let the camera do the rest. Okay, so we got our first shorty in flight over here. We actually have a couple of northern harriers as well. So right now he's over there, probably 300 yards away. Still a little bit too far away for me to photograph, but it's a good sign that we have one finally. Now, one of the things that I think is really important to talk about is one of the things that I try to avoid whenever I'm photographing birds is I try to avoid tilting my camera up. There's nothing interesting in the sky unless there are a couple of birds interacting, and then maybe there's some interesting stuff there, or maybe if the bird is carrying its prey or something like that. But generally speaking, birds in flight aren't that interesting, especially these short-eared owls that fly so close to the ground. So what I really want is for them to be really low to the ground, to have some of the ground in the shot with me, and certainly to have those trees and whatnot in the background to give it some depth as well. So as a general rule, I try not to tilt my camera up. I'm always trying to keep my camera level or shooting down towards the ground as much as possible when I'm shooting these. So anyway, we've had one in flight, along with a couple of northern harriers, so looks like things are getting started, which is great. Now the other thing I think is worth talking a little bit about is back button focus. On my Canon, I have a custom setup, so I have two different buttons in the back that I will work together in order to make sure that I have the birds in focus. So one of which is the eye detect software. So typically, when I'm out here photographing birds that are flying like this, I am first going to use the general back button focus to get the bird in focus. And then as soon as I have the bird somewhat in focus, I am then moving my thumb over just 1/4 of an inch to the other back button, and I am then having the camera focus on the eye. Because what I find is that the camera itself, sometimes if the bird is flying, can't quite capture the eye right away. So what I do is I try to capture the bird, and then I move my thumb over just a little bit to the other back button to capture the eye in focus. So that focus technique of having two back buttons, one for just general focus, the other for the eye detect software, I find that gives me the best chance of getting these birds in focus for as long as possible. Now, once I have the eye detect software on them, like once it's keyed in on them, it can pretty much stay with them as they fly around, unless they go into bushes or behind trees or whatever. But for the most part, once I got them locked in, they're locked in pretty good. So that's great. So right now I'm kind of tempted to go over that way more, but I'm also nervous about going over there and then them coming over here. And this is the game you play. You really don't know where they're going to go. So it's just a matter, I think, of kind of keeping where you are and having the faith that they're going to fly in your direction. So I'm going to give this location about 10 or 15 more minutes, but I may end up moving a little bit more that way as things progress here. We'll just kind of see what happens. But in the past, when I've been here, they kind of fly everywhere. And so I found that the best thing to do is just kind of keep yourself in one spot and let them come to you. But it's a little bit hard to do when you see them over there and they haven't come over near you yet. So just a matter of trying to be patient. All right, well, we have finally got some action here. We have two short-eared owls flying along with two harriers, and they've been kind of going back and forth a little bit here. So we're going to they're right here. Maybe there's probably one about 150 feet in front of me, and then another one maybe 100 yards out. So they're all right here now. It's all happening. So now it's just a matter of keeping our eyes peeled and shooting. Now, one of the things that I'm going to shoot high speed here. So on this, it's about 30 frames per second, and I'm shooting with my electronic shutter. So there's no noise at all. So at 30 frames per second, I'm collecting a lot of data here. There's one right out here, just hovering just above the grasses. All right, so one of them just landed. And he doesn't have any food, but he's perched up really nicely. So it gives me a chance to get a couple of portrait shots. He's still quite a ways away. Yeah, he's probably 200 yards that way. So far away that the eye detect software is having a tough time focusing. So I'm really just kind of using the regular focus here to shoot. Well, that was something, and I now had to switch over to my phone because the batteries on my other camera have died. But I just had I'm walking out now, but probably 40 minutes of just absolute chaos with about, I think it was 8 different short-eared owls and 6 different northern harriers just flying around crazily, interacting, diving. It was a blast. I think I took about 1,600 images in that 40 minutes. So walking out now, just keep my eyes open. And, but it was a good time. And it's starting to get cold, so it's time to get back to the car and get warm.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a blast. And if my enthusiasm for the day didn't come across, I just want to assure you that I had a blast. Now, one of the things that I didn't really get a chance to talk about in that is just how grateful I am to be able to do this work and how grateful I am to be able to take an afternoon, be out in the field like that, owls or not, just being out in nature and enjoying that space and enjoying the fresh air and just the opportunity to kind of be out there. Just so grateful for that. And so I want to thank you all for your support. It gives me a chance to do that on a pretty regular basis. So one of the things that I know probably are going to come up with questions is how do you come back from the field and cull through all the images? I ended up taking about 1,500 images that day. How do I cull through those? And then how do I go about processing those that I'm going to process? And that's going to be next week's episode. So it's a little bit of a preview to what's happening next week. But for right now, what I want to leave you with today are a handful of the images that I did process so you can see kind of what they look like. And again, we'll come back to that next week and we'll talk about how that's get processed. So I want to thank everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't already, would appreciate you hitting that like and subscribe button. It gives me a lot of support and I really appreciate that. So have a great day, everybody. Take care.